Okay, 6:155 onwards. We have to begin. Let us start. So, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Prescribed Duties for Mankind, Chapter 1, The History of the Life of Ajamila. Text 55. एष प्रकृतिसङ्गेन पुरुषस्य विपर्ययः आसीत् स एव न चिरात् ईशसङ्गात् विलीयते. Since the living entity is associated with the material nature, he is in an awkward position. But if the human form of life, in the human form of life, he is taught how to associate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead or his devotees, this position can be overcome. The word Prakriti means material nature, and Purusha may also refer to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If one wants to continue his association with Prakriti, the female energy of Krishna, be separated from Krishna by the illusion that he is able to enjoy Prakriti, he must continue in his conditional life. If he changes his consciousness, however, and associates with the Supreme, original person, Purusham Shashvatam, or with his associates, he can get out of the entanglement of material nature. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, 4.9, Janma Karma Cha Vedivyam Evam Yo Vedi Tattvatah. One must simply understand the Supreme Person, Krishna, in terms of his form, name, activities, and pastimes. This will keep one always in the association of Krishna. Tattva-deham punarjanma naiti mameti sa Arjuna. Thus, after giving up his gross material body, one accepts not another gross body, but a spiritual body in which to return home back to God. Thus, one ends that regulation caused by his association with the material energy. In summary, the living entity is an eternal servant of God, but he comes to the material world and is bound by the material conditions because of his desire to lord it over matter. Liberation means giving up this false consciousness and reviving one's original service to the Lord. This returns to one's original life is called mukti, as confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Muktir hitvanyatha rupa swarupena vivastiti. Muktir hitvanyatha rupa swarupena vivastiti. Srila Prabhupada, so there is this verse in Bhagavad Gita, Purusha prakrite stohi bhukte prakriti jan punah karanam guna sango syat sadasa yonishu janmashu. Prabhupada calls this shloka quite often. Purusha prakrite stohi. Bhukte prakriti jan gunah. So the living entity has the attachment towards the material energy. Yes. Already. There is no separate way of pinning it. We choose it, it comes on the screen. That is the only way of pinning. I don't know any other way. So, Purusha Prakriti Sohi Bhukte Prakriti Jan Gunaha Karanam Guna Sangosya Sadasad Yonishu Janmashu.
Continue speaking.
So, the living entity has a tendency of being attached to this mental energy. And because of this Karanam Guna Sangosya, and because of this attachment and association of the mental energy, the living entity harbors innumerable material desires, and because of which Sadashad Yonishu Janmasu, innumerable living forms one gets. That is all because of one's association. I think this verse is in Bhagavatam, Purusha Prakriti story. Not Gita, but Bhagavatam. Prabhupada quotes this quite often. so, so therefore, here it is being described that what one associates with is what, see, association determines the directionality of our lives. We associate with sensuous people, one is going towards hell. One associates with saintly personalities, one is going towards Krishna. So Lord Rishabdev speaks about this. What is that verse? Sa eva sadhushu kruto moksha dvaram apavritam. And Lord Rishabdev speaks about this. Sa eva sadhushu kruto moksha dvaram apavritam. And this tamo dvaram yoshitam sangi sangam. So there is verse. So yoshitam sangi sangam. Those who are attached to sensuality, we associate with such people. And that leads to the pathway Tamodwaram, the mode of.
That's a Lord Kapila is saying.
Yeah, this Lord Kapil Dev and our Lord Rishabdev also speaks about it, I think. Sa eva sadhushu kruto mokshadwaram apagritam. There are two different verses. So, and this Yoshita, Tamadvara, Yoshita, Sangha. So that means that we choose our own destination by not by our powers, but by what we associate with. What we associate with opens the door of a specific pathway. So the door of elevating our consciousness is to associate with the Lord or the devotees of the Lord. Sa eva sadhushu. Moksha dvara bhava. That opens the doors of liberation for the living. Let's read further. अयं हि श्रुतसम्पन्ना शीलवृता गुणालया ताव्रतो मृदुर्दान्ता सत्यवान् मन्त्रविक्षोच्छे गुरु अग्ने अतिथि वृद्धानां शुश्रूषूरणाः कृता सर्वभूतासु साधु मीतवान् Anasuyakaha. In the beginning, this Brahmana named Ajami studied all the Vedic literatures. He was a reservoir of good characters, good conduct, and good qualities. Firmly established in executing all the Vedic injunctions. He was very mild and gentle, and he kept his mind and senses under control. Furthermore, he was always truthful. He knew how to chant the Vedic mantras. And he was also very pure. Jamil was very respectful to his spiritual master, the fire guards, guests, and the elderly members of his house. Indeed, he was free from false prestige. He was upright, benevolent to all the living entities, and well behaved. He would never speak nonsense or envy anyone. The outer carriers of Yamaraj, the Yamadutas, are explaining the factual position of piety and impiety, and how a living entity is entangled in this material world, describing the history of Ajamal's life. The Yamadutas relate that in the beginning he was a learned scholar of the Vedic literature. He was well behaved, neat and clean, and very kind to everyone. In fact, he had all good qualities. In other words, he was like a perfect Brahmana. Brahmana is expected to be perfectly pious. जय श्री श्री साई श्याम गौर महाराज की श्री श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी सुरक्षक महाराज की प्रभुपाद की जय हरि बोल. A Brahmana is expected to be perfectly pious, to follow all the regulative principles, and to have all good qualities. The symptoms of piety are explained in these verses. Srila Veer Raghavacharya comments that Yata Vrata means Vritam Vratam Stri Sangha Rahityatmaka Brahmacharya Rupam. In other words, Ajamil followed the rules and regulations of celibacy as a perfect brahmachari. And was very soft-hearted, truthful, clean, and pure. How he fell down in spite of all these qualities, and thus came to be threatened with the punishment by Yamaraj will be described in the following verses. So we see that in this verse, another recording has to be done. What? Another recording has to be done. Cloud recording.
No, it's growing light screen.
Okay, so we see here, Samuel, a lot of good qualities are mentioned. He was having good character, he was having good qualities, he was pure. It is explained he had a lot of respect for his spiritual master, the elders, the Vaishnavas. How he became so degraded? The past time is going to be described, and this whole description is being given by the Yamadutas. But how is it possible? See, this goes to show that the mode of goodness is not a steady and stable platform. Ajamil was well situated in the mode of goodness, neat and clean, pure, clean habits. But still he fell down. To what level? Oh, he fell down to a very, very degraded level. He was cheating, looting people. He was exploiting them. He was very sensual. He threw away his wife and parents. And for the prostitute, he was doing everything. So Ajamil, he fell down to a very lowly, degraded lifestyle from such a pure lifestyle. This goes to show that Sattva is not a steady platform. So while in Sattva, uh, one should develop and cultivate attachment to the lotus feet of the Supreme.
What?
While in Sattva, one should cultivate attachment to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. And this attachment to the Lord is effected out by developing attachment for the mission of the Acharyas. So here, it is being very clearly explained that Ajahn had a lot of respect for his spiritual master. But did he adopt the mission of the spiritual master? Was he Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chittite Koriya Akya? That was not the case. That is why he was in a transient situation. And therefore, a wave of sensuality knocked him down. So this is the point, that the positive attachment to the Lord is cultivated by making one's heart one in line with the heart and the mission of the Acharya. Because the Acharyas know the heart of the Lord. And we make our life's mission to fulfill the heart of the Acharyas. That becomes a very great transcendental protection from all kinds of infections and epidemics. No doubt, Ajamil got an infection, but he didn't have that transcendental immunity. He didn't have that transcendental protection. His heart was not glued on so tightly to the mission of the spiritual master, to the Lord's feet of the Lord, attachment to the Lord's feet. That is why uh, he just got overwhelmed by that infection and could not come out. So therefore, Srila Prahlad Maharaj, Srila Canto, 9th chapter, he explains in his prayers, Vipratisatgunayutadaravindanabha Padanavindavimukhā swapacham varishtha Manye tadarpita manovachane hitartha Umar punati sakulam sato bhurimanaha Natu bhurimanaha Vipratisatgunayutadaravindanabha. So Prahlad Maharaj is explaining that one may be a Brahmana carrying out all 12 characteristics or duties of a Brahmana, like Satya, Shamadama, Shaucha, Astheya, truthfulness, self-control, cleanliness, and so on. So, Patan Patan, Yajanya, Dan, Parigraha, and the study of the scriptures, he was learning, Acharya. He was doing Patan Patan, Yajanya. He was doing ritualistic activities. He was also doing sadhan parigraha. He might be doing charity also. So he was doing all 12. He was very, it seems that he was quite adept at all these Brahmanical activities. But here Prahlad Maharaj is explaining that such a highly qualified Brahmana, if he has not developed attachment for the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, such a Brahmana is worse than a dog eater. One who is coming from a dog eater family, but who has developed attachment and rati for the Supreme Lord. Because the dog eater, the Chandala, was developed a rati for the Supreme Lord and deliver the whole world. Whereas this Brahmana cannot even deliver himself. What to say of delivering the family? Forget about the body. This was the Ajamil's weakness. The lack of development of attachment. Therefore, we learn a very great lesson. We should never do Krishna consciousness as a formality. Because if we do it as a formality, that okay, because my culture, my tradition, my parentage, my lineage, I feel I have some feelings for it, therefore I am doing it. One infection cannot disturb. That's what happened to Ajahn. So therefore, one has to be very careful. That is why Krishna consciousness activities have to be done with great heart and fervor. Great heart and fervor. No formalities. No formal. It should be done with great heart and fervor. Yes, question.
Whereas the telling like has been Krishna. Also, the condition like we came to Krishna concentrate that we see different and hence, hence me myself came with attachment to the Kirtans Shadam. So how one can develop because like Krishna consciousness we have for the pleasure of the Lord, we have to do the play solutions. But our solution is that for our own enjoyment, we can do Krishna consciousness. How this transition happen.
Yes. So when we come to Krishna consciousness, because of some self-centered reason also, that is allowed by the Lord and it is accepted by the Lord. But as we practice Krishna consciousness, we get purified. And when we get purified, we get knowledge. Our vision improves. Then we can our attitude should also improve. Then we should grow in our attitude also. So Lord Krishna explains in 7:15, Artho Artharthi Jikya Sugyani Chabartar Sabha Chaturvida Bhajante Mam Jana Sukritino Arjuna. So these four kinds of people, all of them are self-centered. Artho Artharthi Jnana Jigyasi, all are self-centered. So they come to Krishna consciousness, Krishna accepts them, but they don't remain at that level as they proceed in Krishna consciousness. So when we get knowledge, when we get purified, then we should grow in our attitude. Then we should adopt more and more purer attitude. What is the more purer attitude? We see that the great devotees of the Lord. We should always see dedicated devotees of the Lord. And from them it becomes very clear that what is the pure attitude, what is the standard of purity of attitude and thought process and motivation. And step by step we can keep installing that in our lives. So we should grow.
And gradually the identity because
Yeah, it's not just taste, but it's knowledge. It's knowledge, it's practical example.
after that Chaturvida Bhajante Man, then in 718 Krishna is saying among the four one who is in knowledge ये जो भगवान को जानने की
अज्ञानी।
साधन है,
Again,
उनको भगवान सबसे ज्यादा फिर समझ में आ गया ना अभी जब initial reason can be anything but after that we understand bhakti means to give pleasure.
yeah. So when we attach to Prasad, no problem, but Prasad is a manifestation of Krishna. But slowly one should not be just attached to eating Prasad. One can be attached to cooking Prasad and serving Prasad also. So like that. Then it is holistic attachment to Prasad. So just eating is only one third of attachment to Prasad. Then we should have full attachment. That means you have attached to cooking and offering bhoga to the Lord also and serving everyone also Prasad. So then that is full attachment to Prasad. Like that. So that is the point. So slowly one should grow by knowledge, by realizations, by higher taste, by association, we grow. That's it.
And then there is it's also great habit.
What?
Running a percentage.
Person jumps.
But proper disciples immediately
Jumps. Jump is not a problem.
fall is a problem.
Jump is not a problem. Krishna consciousness is science. To keep up a position, there are always prescriptions given that how you can continue that strength. And if we don't follow that, then only the fall happens. Fall down in spiritual life is not so easy. It's not so easy. But only if a person is very stubborn, not ready to hear anyone, Shastra, devotee, spiritual master, anybody, everybody, then only fall down happens. Otherwise, it's not so easy. So jump is not a problem because jump is not a problem. Narmani is speaking this. I am not saying. Jump is not a problem. Bhaktva swadharma charanam bhajam hare bhajana pakvo hapate yat tato yadi natva kvava bhatram anusyaki. Vardhaptu bhajatam sudharmatam. He's saying, Tattva Swadharma Charanam Bhujamde, one worshipping the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. If his bhajan is apakwa, not ripened, and such a person happens to fall down, there is no loss for such a person. There is no loss for such a person. Because whatever else he has done in his sincerity will come to his rescue at every point in time. But one who has done all the materialistic duties very nicely, but has never done devotional service, such a person has not gained anything. So, yes.
So I also want to say something.
Yes.
Radhesham Prabhu, another is army, and third one I will be on this. Srila Prabhupada sir. And fourth is like Krishna says, Tirtham Chalatamasmi. So once he was Radhesham Prabhu was mentioning कि कुछ लोग वॉइस में सोचते हैं हमेशा नया बन के रहो like तो मतलब एक वो फाइनल ईयर तक पहुंच गया उसी तरह भक्ति में किसी को 5 साल 10 साल हो गए पर वो मैं तो भक्ति नहीं हूँ मैं तो भक्ति उसके बाद वाले आने वाले इतनी जिम्मेदारी संभाल ली नहीं तो मैं तो भक्ति नहीं हूँ अब्रप्ट जंप हो जाएगा अब्रप्ट जंप हो जाएगा तो कृष्णा is sitting in our heart he knows he is trying he or she is trying to be smart मैं नया ही बचपन के लोग कोई जिम्मेदारी ऊपर आएगी है ना कि हम बोल रहे हैं हम तो इतना कैपेसिटी नहीं है हमारा तो कैसे हमारा मन ट्रिक कर देता है there is full opportunity to progress and go back to Godhead in one lifetime but we say कि नहीं था ब्रह्म जब ना हो जाए उतनी भक्ति हम संभाल ना पाए तो इसलिए राधेश्याम प्रभु is also quoting this है ना जैसे कुछ बार अपनी कुछ माला बचा के रखेंगे और फिर बोलेंगे मेरी तो माला रेडी है अभी सेवा नहीं कर सकता मेरी तो माला रेडी है अभी सेवा नहीं कर सकता प्रभु is quoting in one life the same way what another Prabhu was saying is army अरे जिसने आर्मी में जाके 5 साल भी डेडिकेटेड सेवा किया है उसको पूरा कंट्री और वो याद रखता है कि इसने दिए हैं 5 साल देश के लिए ठीक है तो ये सोच के हमारा तो टेम्पो ही नहीं है गैली ही नहीं है तो फिर ऐसे ही सांसारिक जीवन जीते रहेंगे और अजामिल का इसी वजह से हुआ काम इसको हरदर स्वामी महाराज बोलते हैं सत्व गुण का अभिमान सत्व गुण के अभिमान में आ जाते हैं हमको लगता है हम तो बहुत बढ़िया डिवोटी बढ़िया लाइफ चल रहा है एक बढ़िया डिवोटी वाइफ होगी गर्भधान संस्कार से डिवोटी बच्चे होंगे उनका नाम महाराज से रखवाएंगे है कि नहीं थोड़ा धाम यात्रा बजाएंगे महाराज को कुछ शॉल वॉल देंगे महाराज के चरण पादुका के सर्वेंट से लेकर अपने घर में रख लेंगे वाह अपना तो गोलोक पक्का है ऐसे नहीं होता ठीक है इट्स नॉट दैट इजी इट्स नॉट अ क्वालिफिकेशन टू गो बैक टू गुड आई एम नॉट पर्सनली सेइंग एनीथिंग टू यू just the topic is I'm broadly describing how we should be presented so that's why glorious service कितना भी टाइम के लिए हो आज हम इतनी आसानी से जो कुछ प्रॉपर कुछ शिष्य जो लेवल पे भक्ति किए थे किसी कारण से नहीं कर पाए हम दूसरे में बहुत आसानी से कमेंट्री कर देते बट क्या उतना डेडिकेशन हम ला पाएंगे ठीक है क्या हम उतना डेडिकेशन ला पाएंगे किनका फॉल डाउन हुआ किनका क्या हुआ बट उन्होंने उतना रिस्क लिया कृष्णा के लिए वो जो उन्होंने एक्सक्लूसिव प्रभुपाद के लिए सेवा किया है प्रभुपाद इज एटर्नली ग्रेटफुल टू देम दैट इज प्रभुपाद ह्यूमिलिटी सो डेडिकेटेड लाइफ इज ऑलवेज बेटर लाइफ जो आर्मी वाले का लाइफ है मरेगा चाहे 2 साल में गोली लग के मर जाए माया तो बड़ी स्ट्रॉन्ग है लेकिन कम से कम युद्ध में निकला तो सही ये कहना नहीं हमसे नहीं हो पाएगा हमसे नहीं हो पाएगा ये सब माया का ट्रिक है फिर कुछ नहीं हो पाएगा फिर जस्ट अ मिनट व्हाट एवर आई वाज कोटिंग two more something that I was about to do. That's why I initially said because my mind was prompting everything. So that's
Prabhu?
why not be in this religion. एक life है. जरूरत भक्ति चार्य महाराज से उनको प्रभुपाद बोले थे give this one life to Krishna. जब हमारे लिए कृष्णा एक्सक्लूसिव नहीं है तो हम कृष्ण के लिए कैसे एक्सक्लूसिव है ये अनाम प्रपद्यन्ते तान सते भजामि फिर डायल्यूटेड धीरे धीरे भक्ति फिर वो एक लाइफ टाइम में हमारा भगवत धाम का गोल नहीं है कमिटमेंट तो दिखाना पड़ता है सीता मैया ने दिखाया राम जी के प्रति आई थिंक स्टिल आई थिंक आई कैन बी हर्ट आई डोंट so that is what I wanted to say and something I think I missed I initially said 4 things that's why I was saying कि 4 चीज दिमाग में साथ में आया था ये माया का ट्रिक है ठीक है एक लाइफ अब हमें कौन सी क्वालिफिकेशन थी जो हम यहाँ तक आए इट्स नॉट क्वालिफिकेशन ठीक है इस चूज करना है ठीक है, मर्जी तो दे रहे हैं, हम लोग कृपा मांग कर रहे हैं, सबको बोलते प्रार्थना करो, ब्लेस कर लो, ब्लेस कर लो, कृपा फुल ऑन है, पूरा मिशन आपका है, जितना लेना है ले लो। चैतन्य महाप्रभु बोलते हैं मैं अकेला कितना फल बांट रही है, प्रेम फल है, एक मालिक कितना फल बांटेगा, आओ डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन में हेल्प करो, तो ये तो करना ही पड़ेगा। और दूसरा, गुरु का वास्तविक कृपा क्यों हुआ ये काम, हम गुरु के यहाँ गुरु भोगी बनने नहीं आते, गुरु सेवी बनने आए। So if we are taking the anxiety of spiritual master as our life anxiety, if we are taking the anxiety of Srila Prabhupada as our life anxiety, if we are taking the anxiety of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as our life anxiety, तो सेंसिटिविटी कैसे करेंगे? आने वाले पी के रात को आँख खुलवा के जैसे हमारे पास हॉस्पिटल में डॉक्टर पेशेंट आते थे, ऐसा आदमी वाला नहीं आएगा, क्योंकि उसकी लाइफ का मिशन है। ठीक है, जिसकी लाइफ में मिशन मिसिंग होता है उसका ही सब गड़बड़ हो जाता है। इसलिए ये तो असली लाइफ है, मतलब दिस इज रियल लाइफ। और क्या होगा क्या नहीं, आज हम अपने लिए इतना कैलकुलेशन करते हैं, वी आर सो कैलकुलेटिव डिवोटी। लोकनाथ स्वामी महाराज, उनके घर वाले गाँव में मंदिर खोल के देते हैं। ठीक है, यही है गुरु को पद्म वाक्य जितने करे क्या निकल कमाने आशा। थोड़ा कृष्ण को, थोड़ा गुरु को अपना जीवन अर्पित तो करके देखो, देखो तुम्हारे जीवन का जो आउटकम आएगा, हम भी हैरान हो जाएंगे हमारे जीवन से क्या क्या होगा। प्रेम किशोर प्रभु ने गुरु महाराज एक जगह बिठाए थे, फिर मंदिर खोल दिया अपना, मंदिर के खरीदने के लिए पैसा कम हो रहा था, है ना, अपना घर बेच के मंदिर बना के उसमें रहने बच्चे पढ़ा दिए, क्यों नहीं जाएंगे, भगवान के नाम जाएंगे ना। और जिनको लग रहा है कि बस थोड़ा स्मार्टली कर लो, ज्यादा अपने ऊपर कुछ प्रेशर ना है, नहीं नहीं, आना पड़ेगा दोबारा। बिकॉज इज ऑलवेज राधानाथ स्वामी महाराज सेज, क्या है साइन ऑफ लव, कितना तुमने एक्सपेंड किया और कितना करना है जब तक तुमको फिनिश ना हो। ठीक है, मेरी सेवा ही है। कंफर्ट जोन से बाहर निकलते तभी कुछ मिलता है भौतिक जगत पे, आध्यात्मिक जगत पे कंफर्टेबल रह के कैसे कृष्ण मिलेंगे।
Yes.
Another extreme, another fact, actually saying that some people come and initially enthusiasm because things didn't work out like they want for becoming successful in the real life and not successful in the spiritual life. So what happens very sadly about thinking capabilities that saying that because of you I came, you told me this initially.
आवाज आ रही है
Initially, I came because of people, this and this people work out that we may go on blasting what is like that. So in that case, so here, whatever he has done, little bit you have to not be justified because he has already gone on a different way of that point of view. Now, this is that very, very, very rational. So, if that is the scenario, then if everybody is following the Varnashram, Ashla Prabhupada said that 50% of the mission is Varnashram. So there will be always be a human being, always be a person who will be not in that level, so slowly it will be in progress. So I want to ask one thing that if anybody is situated in Varnashram, following the dedication of Varnashram, what Srila Prabhupada gave us, Srila Prabhupada moved to Varnashram, can anyone go back to body in one way, or he has to come again?
It's a Dayave Varnashram, their mission. In this way, Jayapataka Mata says, I am Sankirtan devotee. If you are not a Sankirtan devotee, doesn't matter in which ashram you are, you cannot go back to it. अपना परिवार, अपना जीवन, अपनी माला, अपना गीता, इससे नहीं जाते हैं। ऊपर जाके क्या करेंगे?
Usually,
So what? So what was the question?
yeah, repeating the question. Some people they take to certain strand of Krishna consciousness and then they are not able to handle it. Then they are neither material nor spiritual, and then they start fault finding and then they spoil their bhakti. So should one go very slowly following Varnashrama? But if one follows Varnashrama slowly, then we can go back to Godhead in one life or what will happen. You see, first the principle is what? See, bhakti is a science. And every science talks about the principles which support that science, the principles which are detrimental to that process. That has to be followed. There is a risk in everything. Even the very cooking which we are doing 3 times a day, there is a risk. If the cylinder bursts out, none of us will remain alive. Uh, so that kind of accident can happen. Even the very vehicles we are driving in, there is full petrol out there. Some small accident and nobody will be, the planes, the trains, everything. So, but do we stop doing that? No, everything is coming with its own principles. And if the principles are followed, there is no accident. We are cooking 3 times a day. Some people cook 4, 5 times a day. Every single day. So we are driving on vehicles. Anybody doesn't drive vehicles? They simply walk and run or cycle. No. Even from a cycle, one may lead to an accident. Not to say if anything else. Some people just fall from the stairs, 2 steps, and then they are 1 month in the hospital. So it happens. So what to do then? What to do then? So therefore, like somebody is tripping on the stairs, do we stop the stairs? No, that's not the point. Even the elevator wire may break. Do we stop using elevators? No. And they have once in 3 months they check the elevators. You have to pay for it. They will come for inspection. They will say this part is now needs to be repaired. You pay this much money, this much money, this much money, and all that. Some houses people are sitting, the roof falls. The roof only falls off. Yeah, I saw one news on New Year party. People were dancing. That floor only fell off. They were dancing, they fell off. Like that. It was 31st December. The New Year Eve. So, do we stop staying in buildings? No. So similarly, there is nothing to be. So there is a healthy fear. There is an unnecessary fear. Healthy fear means that one should be aware that it is a science. So I cannot handle it any way whimsically I like. I need to follow the principles of the science. So that is called as healthy fear. That no. One cannot take Krishna consciousness for granted. नहीं हम तो भक्ति हैं. And one cannot take Krishna consciousness for granted. One has to follow the principles of the science. But one should not be so fearful that one is paralyzed. But you are so fearful of Krishna and surrendering to Krishna. Now, suppose somebody is very, very fearful, paralyzingly fearful of surrendering to Krishna. Now, what is the option the other person has? To try out Maya. Who is more dangerous, Krishna or Maya? That's illogical. Sometimes people say, नहीं ज़्यादा surrender करने से problem है, कल को प्रॉब्लम हो गया, करियर नहीं हुआ, सैलरी नहीं हुआ, ये नहीं हुआ, वो नहीं हुआ, क्या नहीं हुआ, तो ठीक है. ओके, स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम है, ऑल्टरनेटिव क्या है आपके पास? मटेरियल लाइफ ट्राई करेंगे. मटेरियल लाइफ में प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, इसमें ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम है. विच लाइफ हैज मोर प्रॉब्लम? लाइक दैट. पीपल आर वर्किंग, है ना, बीच में ग्रीड आ जाता है, then they start doing गबन, गबन, understand गबन, corruption. तो पैसा दिखता है, then फिर पोजीशन आ जाता है, people start exploiting women, they start exploiting here there, material life में danger नहीं है, material life में infection नहीं है. Yeah, so much infection is there in material life. So much infection is there. So many politicians and leaders, after their term gets over, then so many scam cases come. So many millions of dollars of scams and all that. Similarly, so much of cases of women mishandling comes when they come into power. So many professors are accused of mishandling of female students and all that, lady students, So There is danger everywhere. So we have to understand that spiritual life also comes as a science. And science means you have to follow the principles of the science. So the point is, this when devotees are encouraging us to take a step towards Krishna, then that is a very auspicious step. But along with taking that step, one has to follow the principles of what is required to sustain and maintain that spirit. That one gets by associating with the devotees. So practically, see, the person who is inspiring us to surrender may or may not have that much of depth of knowledge of what to do if there is a fall or trip. But that doesn't mean that nobody in the movement has that knowledge. You know? Like sometimes there will be very simple devotees. They may just say, okay, join, come, join the temple and just serve in the temple. Now, these devotees themselves may not know that, okay, if somebody is not able to continue on that platform, what to do with such a person. Because they themselves may not have acquired that much of skill, that much of exposure, that much of knowledge, and so on. So then one should not just hook on to one person, then one should find an expert who can guide. It is not that there is nobody in the ISKCON movement who doesn't know that somebody cannot fit in the temple and what to do with such a person and how to protect their spiritual life. It's not a problem at all. It's very simple. So many of our devotees in Calcutta, they have served 6 years, 8 years, 10 years in the brahmachari ashram, and then they wanted to go out. We just offered them a very simple guidance. We just told them, okay, 4 6 months, you prepare some Java stack or .NET stack. 6 months it takes to prepare, and we will give you 10 year certificate. And they landed up in 20 lakh jobs, 15 lakh jobs, 12 lakh jobs straight away after 10 years of ashram life. Is it difficult? It's easy. It is easy. In Chowpatty, so many brahmacharis that they wanted to go out and they are serving in GV. GV is a multi-million dollar venture. In Bhaktivedanta Hospital, again it is a million dollar venture. They are just serving there happily, heartily, no problem. Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj was telling me that okay, when brahmacharis they join Grihastha Ashram, they go out. We have no problem with that, Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj said. Actually, we have no problem with that. Why? Because Maharaj said that no problem. Previously when the person was a brahmachari, he was serving alone. Now he will serve with his wife. No problem. That's okay. So there was one person who was serving, now there are two people who are serving. What is the loss? No loss. No loss actually. And what do they do? Oh, Mayapur community is a multi-million dollar community. They just serve in Mayapur. What kind of service? Very simple. We can just put up a table. Any corner of Mayapur. It's as simple as that. I mean, they can do much more than that. There are a lot of things. Uh, 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 nothing else. They can just put a juice counter. One kiosk can start a juice counter. That itself will give them 30,000-40,000 rupees per month. No, deity worship, deity dresses, anything.
Needs can be satisfied. We become greedy.
How long is Mayapur community? You see. So their brahmacharis are also 300, 400 brahmacharis they have. And many of them change. When they have mass recruitment, and many of them change their ashram and marry. And what do they do? Most of them keep on serving. And then from there, they go to open different centers here and there. Look at the expansion Mayapur has done all around East India, Bihar, Odisha, Northeast, like that. So that is all Maharaj is telling. We have no problem. So that means what? That only one needs to come in the association of a little expert devotees who can help in that situation. There may be some small, dilapidated, isolated temple, where the brahmachari will be so simple that you may not know that okay, now this candidate who surrendered now is wanting to have some family now, how to handle it. So in that case, instead of that devotee, just taking the verdict of that one guide who didn't have that exposure and maturity and tag it as blaming ISKCON, one should see that okay, which big community I can join, where I can get my needs fulfilled. That is the point. We are very small. We are able to help. Why? Because we just registered one company. It doesn't even make 10 lakhs of rupees per month, no, per year. It is just a simple company, but we are able to do help so many Vaishnavas, more than a dozen Vaishnavas we have helped till now. Like that. It is as simple as that. We are a very small company because we are not after money, therefore the earning is not so much. Whatever comes goes to the temple. So if we can do this and we are so small, we are not even an outpost. We are so small. Our center is so small. You know, uh, One of the smallest in the India hierarchy of temple units and preaching centers. So still we are able to do it. You know, we are able to help not just our temple, New Town, everywhere. We see devotees here. So it just requires one to take uh, guidance from. So therefore, one should not be sentimental about spiritual life. And okay, just because a particular devotee may not have the exposure and expertise to handle every kind of situation. Therefore, we have Vaishnav Sangha. So then one should take benefit from the broader Vaishnav Sangha, which is available, and take help from the broader Vaishnav Sangha, like that. So no one should think that I am complete in myself, you know, or my temple community is complete in itself. No, one should always take benefit of the broader Vaishnav Sangha. There is a very broad Vaishnav Sangha in ISKCON. There are different types of devotees. One has no problem serving Krishna. There is no problem. So one can have. Uh, so therefore, actually, rather than criticizing, one should take association of the broader Vaishnav Sangha. So they resort to criticism that is actually a fallacy on their part. And they are just blinded by one particular uh, devotee guidelines. They are not taking help of the broader Vaishnav Sangha. Like suppose, okay, at this point of time, suppose our Calcutta community, we don't have the expertise of opening a hospital. Can we open a hospital? Yes, we can. How? We can take help from guidance from Bombay. Like that. Taking that guidance, Mayapur has opened a very nice hospital now. Hello? We can also do that. So there is nothing stopping Krishna consciousness. So that is why to do anything, we have to take guidance from uh, uh, a devotee who is a little bit expert in that. So we should acknowledge. So that is called as acknowledging the entire Vaishnava Sangha in its entirety. ISKCON with its millions of devotees is one family. We make a mistake on ourselves. We make a mistakes when we compartmentalize ISKCON, saying that my temple is the only temple, saying that my guru is the only guru, my counselor is the only candidate in the world. It is either him or nothing. And then when one goes beyond him, then it is nothing. Then one says, okay, Krishna consciousness is nothing. No. So compartmentalization is a disease. By compartmentalizing, we are cutting down our own immunity systems. So, so compartmentalization is a disease. ISKCON, with its variegatedness, is one family. Any and every ISKCON devotee is our family member, and we should see them in that light. And therefore, anybody, any ISKCON devotee in the entire world needs any help, and we are in a position to do that, one should not step back. We are one family. We are one family. That devotee may be from Netherlands, doesn't matter. That devotee may be from Slovakia, doesn't matter. ISKCON is one family. And we should live in that spirit and stand up to that spirit. Then no material situation can break anyone's heart. When we compartmentalize, we are digging our own grave. That is the point. Yes.
So, like in future, what will happen? So that's why the basic requirement we are not saying don't complete education. We are saying complete your education, but don't be over passionate to make a lot of money, lot of money, lot of money. Because when the Rishabdev's sons were like grown up and they were supposed to enter Grihastha ashram and then take up the role as the Kshatriyas, they were first sent for tapasya. Because you have to be devotee first. So, like, why we are thinking that money will give us security. So maybe then we are not understanding Bhagavad Gita as it is. When Krishna is saying, "Kantya pratijani, नाम है भक्त्या प्रणश्यति," मेरे भक्त में कभी नाश नहीं होता है. तो हमको क्या लग रहा है अगर कुछ साल डेडिकेशन में दे दिया, पूरा लाइफ डेडिकेशन में दे दिया, तो हम पटक की आत्मा हो जाएगी. Krishna is saying योगक्षेमम वहानियम. So the problem is, but the other point I was thinking, all this calculation doesn't come when the prostitute enters our life. In Ajamin's life, a lady entered. So that's why Srila Bhagavan Swami Maharaj says, you cannot satisfy women. Actually, women is a manifestation of your own lusty desires. Because a person who is a genuine brahmachari will never marry someone who's like, जिसका भगवान से लेना देना नहीं. तो अजामिल का पतन क्यों हुआ? वो वहां पे लिखा है, आगे श्लोक में आता है कि कैसा स्त्री ले लिया. स्त्री को कुछ दुष्ट. और इवन जो एक जैन भक्त है वो अपनी ट्रेजेक्टरी में कभी कुछ ऐसा नहीं लेगा जो गुरु कृष्ण की सेवा से पृथक हो. तो जिंदगी में तूफान आएगा ही नहीं. और जो हम यहाँ पे साहस नहीं दिखा रहे, एक स्त्री को संतुष्ट करने के लिए अजामिल ने इतना इतना इतना. एक्चुअली गलती स्त्री की नहीं, गलती अजामिल ने खुद की अनसेटिस्फाइड लस्ट की. दैट मींस रूट कॉज में अविद्या है. ये जितना डिस्कशन कन्विक्शन नहीं आ रहा, अविद्या है. अविद्या को केवल विद्या से हटा जाता है. So that means we should intensify our hearing, we should intensify our reading Srila Prabhupada books, we should intensify our association with dedicated devotees. That's why it is said, Maa Seva Dwaram Bhavan. ये तो ढीले ढीले तो बोलेंगे, बोलेंगे हम तो डूब रहे, तुम्हें भी ले डूब रही है. और हमको लगा नेगेटिव लोगों का संग करते करते नहीं ये हो जाएगा वो हो जाएगा. कोई भगवान गारंटी दे रहे हैं. प्रभुपाद के डिसाइपल्स की लाइफ में देखा है ना, तो इन्होंने जतरा का हमारा सोचे, ना मंदाकिनी माता सोची, ना इसके अनंत शांति प्रभु सोचे. कोई इतना बैकअप इस जनरेशन के डिवोटी सोचने लगे हैं, क्योंकि हाँ वो जनरेशन के डिवोटी कभी इतना नहीं सोचते थे. एक्चुअली हम इसके लिए ये सोचने की बात है. हम भक्ति की बेसिक डेफिनेशन ही उड़ा रहे हैं. ऋषिकेश सेवनम भक्ति उच्चते. तो फिर सतोगुण का एक जीवन होगा, वो पायस लाइफ होगी. और इवन संदर्भ स्वामी महाराज का एक लेक्चर है उन्होंने दिया था. Even that Sattva-guna is mixed sattva, that doesn't qualify us to go to even Swargaloka. Forget about Goloka. So अगर किसी को लगता है कि मुझे इतना नहीं करना है, then at least be clear कि 1 लाख में गोलोक बिल्कुल नहीं मिलेगा. और स्वर्गलोक का लेक्चर सुन लेना, तो हम लोग बहुत डिसीटफुल लोग हैं, बहुत छल कपट है हमारे अंदर, हम स्वर्ग में जाने के भी अधिकारी नहीं. But if their thinking process is so mechanical, I just follow the, मतलब I don't know grossly suddenly how much person will follow the 4 regulative principles और 16 वाला दीक्षा हो गया. चलो गोलोक पक्का हो गया. अभी संसार में 4 फ्लैट लेते हैं, 4 गाड़ी लेते हैं, गोलोक का तो टिकट हो गया. नहीं, there's a basic minimum. Because a genuine attentive chanting will make you more surrendered for the mission. That's why sometimes, like some people come to the spiritual master and say कुछ बोलते को बोलते ध्यान करो और जप करो, इसलिए ही बोलते हैं जब तक ध्यानपूर्वक जप नहीं होगा, कृष्ण का संग नहीं होगा, तब तक ये भावनाएं आती नहीं है. तो we should beg कि भगवान प्लीज अपनी पार्टी में हमको ज्वाइन करा लो, अपने मिशन में हमको ज्वाइन करा लो. तो ये जो है गुरु वंदना में अविद्या विनाश सेक्स लाइफ के लिए और एक्सटेंडेड सेक्स लाइफ के लिए, जिसमें हमारा पूजा लाभ प्रतिष्ठा सब कुछ है, उसमें हमको कोई संकोच नहीं होता. यही तो जगत के रजस और तमस का प्रभाव है. नहीं तो जीवन जीना, जीवन पत्नी बच्चे परिवार का ध्यान रखना इतना मुश्किल नहीं है. लेकिन हम बहुत ज्यादा रजस तमस की ट्रेजेक्टरी पे चले जाते हैं, इसलिए कभी हमको लगता है कि अभी तक इनसिक्योरिटी चल रही है, हमारे पास भजन और मिशन के लिए समय नहीं है. So this is our own disease of avidya. अभी जो हम अजामिल को पसंद करें यही हुआ ना. हम अजामिल में हमारे में बहुत ज्यादा हाईली सुपर क्वालिफाइड डिवोटी है. अजामिल के साथ ऐसे हो गया और हम सोच रहे हैं हम तो अजामिल के साथ सामने कुछ भी नहीं है, और हम सोच रहे हैं हमको कुछ नहीं होगा, हम गोलोक चले जाएंगे. So one should be very clear about the Falashruti, because we are living in a religion and the Falashruti will be Golok Vrindavan. अगर इतना आसान था तो प्रभुपाद जी के शिष्यों को इतना ही संघर्ष करना. फिर तो एक कंफर्टेबल, फिर तो हम कुछ सोकल पायस कम्युनिटीज होती है उनमें ऐसे ही होता है सकाम भक्ति, नो. फिर कुछ और हो जाएगा, विल गेट डेविएटेड कंप्लीटली. तो मुझे यही कहना था. जस्ट वन मोर थिंग कैन आई. So then I was saying, Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj was also saying, complete the material education, but don't go towards material trajectory so much. And people are thinking, ki, agar मैं, like those are thinking of joining as a brahmachari, and they are thinking, if I couldn't stay in the brahmachari ashram, then what is the backup? Then His Holiness Sandar Swami Maharaj was saying, if we are not able to control the senses in your brahmachari life, that's a prerequisite for everyone. Doesn't matter we are in saffron or in white. If somebody is serious about spiritual life, must be brahmachari. Acharan Brahmana must follow the four regulative principles strictly. And such a person should not think कि मेरा sense control नहीं हो रहा, saffron नहीं ले सकता, marry कर दो. और तुम marry के लिए right candidate नहीं हो. Because marriage means you have the opportunity for sense gratification and still you will not do it. So then it is more tough than being a brahmachari. And we know it's frustrating. It's not that okay, I'll beget 1-2 child and then my lust will be satisfied. Lust can never be satisfied. When you stretch yourself for the mission of the Lord, then only lust will not disturb. Otherwise, lust will always disturb. Whether you are in Grihastha life, whether you are in Brahmachari life. That is when Bhakti Vasudeva Maharaj was giving a class in Kharagpur a couple of years back. He was saying, genuine Grihastha life is more difficult than a Brahmachari life. You know, you have a chaste wife. तो सारा सिस्टम तो फुल ऑन है, कोई रेजिस्टेंस नहीं है सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन के लिए, क्योंकि कोई लड़ाई झगड़े तो है नहीं. There you are living for the sake of the pleasure of Srila Prabhupada and Prabhupada disciples. That's a real test. So that's why people should not think कि मेरा ब्रह्मचर्य आश्रम में नहीं जम रहा है तो मैं गृहस्थ में चला जाऊंगा. नहीं, आपको दोनों ही आश्रम में ब्रह्मचर्य का पालन करना होगा. Except in गृहस्थ आश्रम you have opportunity to do the service of begetting Krishna conscious children. So that's why वो दोनों ही जगह उतना ही रिस्क है. इसलिए बेटर है डेडिकेटेड लाइफ जी के देखिए और फिर एक डेडिकेटेड डिवोटी से नहीं कीजिए अगर आवश्यकता पड़ता है. जीना तो गुरु और कृष्ण के लिए ही होगा. अपने लिए जिएंगे तो काम में ग्रस्त रहेंगे. ठीक है.
Okay, so let us read further then.
So, what was the meaning of jumping in spiritual life?
Jumping means joining the temple is considered as a jump for some. Jump is something that, okay, we have taken a step towards Krishna, whether one will be able to handle it or not. A step toward dedication. So that is what is meaning of jumping. Like everybody before coming to Krishna consciousness know that okay, I have to earn 25 lakhs, then I have to go to America, then I have to get US citizenship, then I have to earn millions of dollars, and go on earning till I die. So any other trajectory other than this can be called as a jump. So the question is whether one is having the patrata to do that. In Krishna consciousness, one doesn't need patrata. If one follows the principles, one can handle it because it is a science. We may not have it, but the association of the Vaishnavas has it. And if we connect to the right sources, get the right guidance, follow the right principles, anyone can take to any stride in spiritual life. For some people, 1 round to 16 round also may be a jump. So the jump is a relative term. Just because one is used to the diseased lifestyle of sensuality, any other thing appears to be a jump. That is the point.
छोटे बच्चे को माता पिता बहुत पालते हैं, बट हर माता पिता का एक्सपेक्टेशन रहता है बच्चा बड़ा होकर जिम्मेदारी संभालेगा। हाँ, लेकिन अगर बच्चा बोले मुझे तो बड़ा ही नहीं होना, कौन बिजनेस संभाले, कौन घर का जिम्मेदारी जाना मिले, तो वो तो बहुत डेंजरस सिचुएशन है। तो होगी, माता पिता दुखी हो जाते हैं कि अरे तुमको इतना पाल पोस के बड़ा किया, आज तुम सोच रहे हो। ऐसा है ना, कुछ लोग जॉब भी नहीं करना चाहते हैं, बस सोचते हैं मम्मी पापा ही कमाते रहे। ऐसा सिस्टम है। तो ये तो फिर डिजीज मेंटालिटी है, जिम्मेदारी तो हर जगह लेनी पड़ेगी।
एकादशोपनं यथा
एकादश
पितृसन्देश कृत्विजा आदाय आदाय तत आवृत्ता फलपुष्पा समित्कुशात् तदृशा कामिनां काञ्चे शुद्रं सह भुजिष्यया हित्वा च मधुमेहेयम् मदा घूर्णीतनेत्राय युक्ताय विश्लथन्निव्या व्यापेतं निरपत्रपम् क्रीडन्तम् अनुगायन्तम् आसन्तम् अनयान्तिके। Once this Brahmana Ajamal, following the order of his father, went to the forest to collect fruit, flowers, and 2 kinds of grass called Samit and Pusha. On the way home, he came upon a Shudra, a very lusty, 4th-class man, who was shamelessly embracing and kissing a prostitute. The Shudra was smiling, singing, and enjoying as if this were proper behavior. Both the Shudra and the prostitute were drunk. The prostitute's eyes were rolling in intoxication, and her dress had become loose. Such was the condition in which Ajamil saw them. While traveling along the public way, Ajamila came upon a 4th-class man and a prostitute, who are vividly described here. Drunkenness was sometimes manifest even in bygone ages, although not very frequently. In this age of Kali, however, such sin is to be seen everywhere. For people all over the world have become shameless. Long ago, when he saw the scene of the drunken Shudra and the prostitute, Ajamila, who was a perfect brahmachari, was affected. Nowadays, such sin is visible in so many places, and we must consider the position of a brahmachari student who sees such behavior. For such a brahmachari to remain steady is very difficult unless he is extremely strong in following the regulative principles. Nevertheless, if one takes to Krishna consciousness very seriously, he can withstand the provocation created by sin. In our Krishna conscious movement, we prohibit illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling. Kali Yuga, a drunk, half-naked woman embracing drunk man is a very common sight, especially in the Western countries, and restraining oneself after seeing such things is very difficult. Nevertheless, if by the grace of Krishna one adheres to the regulative principles and chants the Hare Krishna mantra, Krishna will certainly protect him. Indeed, Krishna says that his devotees never vanquished. Kanteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Therefore, all the disciples practicing Krishna consciousness should obediently follow the regulative principles and remain fixed in chanting the holy names of the Lord. Then there need be no fear. Otherwise, one's position is very dangerous, especially in this Kali Yuga. So no doubt Srila Prabhupada is acknowledging here that the situation in the modern day world is very dangerous and infectious. But Srila Prabhupada is the Srila Prabhupada's basis and faith is on the power of the process. The process of Krishna consciousness is also extremely powerful. And therefore, if one sufficiently submerges oneself in this, in the process of fully in the process of Krishna consciousness, the Prabhupada says that a person will be able to withstand the provocations of Maya. What is the mechanism? Srila Prabhupada explains by a very beautiful analogy. There is a potentiality of one drowning even in a small lake. What to say of a river? What to say of an ocean? But in an ocean, a small ship can sail through. Even though there are waves, even though there are sharks, even though there are all kinds of problems and roughness all around, still the ship can sail through. So therefore, so how Krishna consciousness can sail through this ocean of negativity, just as a very small, insignificant ship sails through. One should not drill holes in the ship. That is the point. So practice of bhakti should be solid. Then it is like a ship. What is that? Plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam. Plavam sukalpam gurukarnadharam. So this human life itself is considered as a boat. And the spiritual masters gives the directions. There are favorable winds of the Vedas. And if one takes benefit of this, one can cross through this ocean of materialism. Namo Mukundangri Nishevayeva. Just by catching hold of the lotus feet of the Lord, this ocean of material existence, I can cross over. Antarishyami Narandaparam. Namo Mukundangri Nishevayeva. That is the point. So therefore, one has to that is why Bhaktivedanta Maharaj used to chant 32 rounds every day. 32. And later he started chanting 10 more and made it 42. And Maharaj would say that because I am from a place with a lot of sensuality, and therefore 16 are not enough for me at least. But I'm very fallen. So this is the point, and one very strongly takes shelter of the principles of devotional service. One can create an impenetrative shield which your Maya's provocations cannot penetrate. But when it becomes loose and narrow, then fall down is inevitable. That's very further.
I just want to say that we should not negate that because it feels always that हमारे purpose है why the chanting more than go out and do something. We don't think मेरा तो last मेरा मैं जब मंदिर माला करना चालू सेवा करना है like generalize ठीक है, सेवा में कॉम्प्रोमाइज करके देव महाराज की नहीं कर सकता, उनके जो
Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, so that's what the point is, that if one has guidance so much so that it becomes a shield, then then one can follow that. If one doesn't have, then one can take any of the principles of devotional service and grab onto it very strongly. Whether it is the principle of book distribution, there are devotees who do 12 to 40,000 book distribution every day. There are devotees who chant 64 rounds every day and do services. There are devotees who do 8 hours of Pujari Seva every day. There are devotees who give classes 8 hours a day. There are devotees who do counseling 8 hours a day. So, Devamrita Maharaj was very clearly making this point. That okay, if there is very clear point-to-point guidance, then one can follow that. That will be impenetrable. But many times we will not have that. Then one can take any of the principles being highlighted by the acharyas and work on it and expand on it. No problem. So that is the point. Devamrita Maharaj was explaining that because he was wondering, okay, what is the instruction for me which the Prabhupada has given? But he could not get, he had not got that much of association of Prabhupada. He was thinking what to do. Then among from the Prabhupada books he chose. And then he went to Australia and New Zealand and he started preaching that okay, this will be my offering to Prabhupada. Like that. So that's the whole point. That okay, let's read further. Drishpatam Kamaliptena Bahuna Parirambhita Jagama Richaya Vasam Sahasaiva Vimohitaha. The Shudra, his arm decorated with turmeric powder, was embracing the prostitute. When Achamal saw her, the dormant lusty desire in his heart got awakened, and in illusion he fell under their control. It is said that if one's body is smeared with turmeric, it attracts the lusty desires of the opposite sex. The word Kamaliptena indicates the Shudra was decorated with the turmeric smeared on his body. Yeah.
So now they are tattoos.
Yeah. We have to understand that you see the karma is a very great illusion. The karma is a very great illusion. There is no enjoyment in sensuality. But the karma is illusory representation of sensuality which is irresistible. When one goes into it, there is nothing. What is there in the body? There is nothing in this body, there is only bile, pus, urine, stool, blood. That's all body is made up of. And therefore, there is nothing in the body. But an illusory representation of uh, this particular aspect can make one captivated. Therefore, it is said that worse than a woman's association is association of a womanizer. The womanizer is the most dangerous person to associate with.
Sangi Sangam.
Sangi Sangam.
So you are not doing Sangam, but your friend is doing Sangi Sangam, then you are doing.
Yeah, because this fellow, because of his attachment to very heavy attachment to sensuality, is going to present something which is not very, which has nothing in it, as if the whole world of treasure is there. That is the point. This is what every Bollywood, Hollywood movie does. There's no pleasure in sex gratification, sense gratification. But they present it in an illusory way. And that is so that captivation is completely illusory. Therefore, the sense pleasure is completely illusory. And thus one should not fall trap to it and waste one's life. The same Ajamal is wasting his life. By Krishna's grace, he came back to his senses very late in his life. But then Ajamal is repenting very badly how he wasted the major duration of his life. He might be in his 20s or early 30s. Until 88, he was lost. 88, he came to his senses. Krishna gave him a life of 100 years, and next 12 years he fulfilled his life. But the point is that this whole is an illusion. So that is why sense gratification is also compared to a quicksand, dal. Once one gets into it, it is very sticky. It doesn't leave. How it is sticky, that mechanism is explained in second chapter. Because sense gratification, yeah, hits on the buddhi. Buddhi nasho pranashyati. Therefore, it is very sticky because it immediately cuts down on the vivek. Smriti Vibrama, Smriti Brahmasa, Buddhiraj, Buddhiraj, Pranashyati. Let's read further. Stambhayan Atmanatmanam Yavat Sattvam Yatha Shrutam Shashaka Samadhatum Mano Madana Vepitam. As far as possible, he patiently tried to remember the instructions of the Shastras, not even to see a woman. With the help of this knowledge and his intellect, he tried to control his lusty desires, but because of the force of Cupid within his heart, he failed to control his mind. Purpose. Unless one is very strong in knowledge, patience, and proper bodily, mental, and intellectual behavior, controlling one's lusty desires is extremely difficult. Thus, after seeing a man embracing a young woman and practically doing everything required for sex life, even a fully qualified Brahmana described above could not control his lusty desires and restrain himself from pursuing them. Because of the force of materialistic life, to maintain self-control is extremely difficult unless one is specifically under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the devotional service. So, if we read this verse and part, if you read this verse, it appears that this Ajamila, he was so sincere, he tried everything, but he failed. So, Cupid is so strong that nobody can win over it. Does that mean? Is that the implication? No. So, here we see that this Ajamil is trying to remember the instructions of the Shastra, not to see the woman and all that. But the force of Cupid is very, very strong. Sajamil failed. So does that mean nobody can succeed ever? No. So what is the policy on the part of Ajamil?
नहीं अजामिल को आदमी बताना चाहिए था अपने बड़ा बात ये हो गया
Yeah.
यहाँ पे पता चला जाए
The biggest problem with Ajamil was that he was only trying
on his own
capacity. That was the biggest problem of Ajamil. He's trying to remember Shastras. Did he go to associate with some devotees of the Lord? If he really had love for his spiritual master, rather than just some respect out of some tradition, then he would have run to his spiritual master.
What is the benefit of
There is-
it?
There is a very important lesson here. When it comes to Maya, don't keep fighting with Maya, trying to show off your prowess that okay, I can also battle Maya. When it comes to combat Maya, run away from Maya. That is the lesson. When it comes to combat with Maya, don't say that okay, I am Hercules, I am James Bond. Maya, I'll smash off Maya. So this Ajamila, his problem is he's standing right there, seeing that whole thing. Prabhupada is explaining this prostitute, these fellows, they were not just embracing, they did everything for sex life. Prabhupada is speaking that. You know, that means they were doing all nasty things, and he's standing there and he's trying to remember Bhagavad Gita verses. You sit in front of a pornographic movie, how can you remember Bhagavad Gita verses? And then if one says, oh, the process doesn't work, you fool, first you have to switch off the pornographic movie. So when it comes to Maya, don't just keep fighting with Maya, trying to show off that, I am very great, I can combat. There is not a single fellow in the entire universe, in the entire creation of the universe who has combated Maya successfully.
And my favorite example is Gemini.
So therefore, there is only one strategy to fight with Maya. What is that strategy? Run away from Maya. Run away from Maya is the only strategy to save oneself from Maya. And run away means run to where? Run to the devotees of the Lord. Catch hold of their lotus feet. And just stick on to their lotus feet. Suppose this Ajamila could have, no, just imagine. Now, suppose this Ajamila would have run to say to Maharaj. What would have happened to him? Maharaj would have taken him to so many holy places, done 4 hours, kirtan every day. No? Is it not? Gone to Rishikesh, gone to Poland. I'm just giving you an example. I'm whole day visiting holy places, and devotees, and absorbed in Vrindavan mellows. So this is what had happened. He did not go to the Maharaj. Ajay, no, I'm just giving you an example. Had he gone to Indrananda Maharaj, what would have happened to him? No? Had he, or any senior devotee, I'm just giving an example.
I'm saying another thing. We should always live with a guru. That's why there will be no chance.
So this is the point that Ajamil.
Guru is always watching us.
See, this goes to show that although Ajamil was doing all the ritualistic activities of religion, but he had not gone deep to the level of developing attachment or love or affinity. Because he's just standing there only. Even a small child, when danger comes, the small child also knows this. I need to run. When danger comes, the small child looks for running to his mother. माने ये बात एक बच्चे को भी पता है, and Ajamil was not knowing it. That I need to run. He stood there and tried to remember, which is impossible. One cannot be in a prostitute house and remember verses on Bhagavatam. One cannot be inside sensuality. One has to get out first.
And from the journey home, that night only came out of that place. If you're bouncer, I guess bouncer is
So this is the point that we have to understand. The strategy to combat Maya is to run away from Maya. And run away from Maya to where? To the devotees. That is the only way by which we can save ourselves from Maya. There is no other way, no other way, no other.
And we cannot run away from Maya if we are not attached to Krishna. So that's why we should always remember whom we belong to. That's why in the temples also, the Jagannath temple, most of South Indian temples, so much like all these sensual poses are there. Because Maya will check with that moment. Don't look there, look at Jagannath.
Okay, so let's see further.
Like suppose that actually हमको कभी भी किसी के साथ रिलेशन का सोचना भी नहीं चाहिए लेकिन हमको हमेशा इसलिए शायद छोटी मोटी मैं नहीं बोलते हम बोलते हैं क्योंकि हमेशा परमात्मा और गुरु के साथ बट वी शुड नॉट जस्ट से हम मैं दूंगा हम किसके हैं कि कभी भूलना नहीं चाहिए इसलिए तो कृष्णा कॉन्शियस एंड यू कैन नॉट बी कृष्णा कॉन्शियस विदाउट बीइंग गुरु कॉन्शियस कृष्णा परमात्मा के रूप में हरियाली में बैठे हैं, फिर भी हम महान की तरफ व्यवहार कर रहे हैं इसलिए गुरु हरि
63.
हरे कृष्ण
तन्निमित्तेन स्वलभ्य गृहाग्रस्तो विचेतनः ताम् एव मनसा ध्यायत स्वधर्मान् विवरामः।
ठीक है कि तुकाराम महाराज क्योंकि विठल की भक्ति में लगे हुए थे प्रॉस्टिट्यूट घर पे आई गाना गा रही है पत्नी कहीं गई थी तो क्योंकि जब आपको हर स्त्री को माँ देखने का आदत पड़ जाएगा तो कैसे सोचेंगे फिर किसी माँ को गलत तरह से देख सकते हैं क्या तो वो उसको बोलते हैं कितना सुंदर गा रही है सब मराठी में बोलते थे तो फिर तो वो उसको लगा वाह एक बार खराब हो गए बट उन्होंने आगे बोला साक्षात रघुमाई के जैसे रुक्मिणी माँ के जैसे गा रही मतलब माँ से तुलना करती थी उस स्त्री को देख के तो स्त्री नमस्कार करती और तुलसी तुलसी की परिदक्षिणा करके हरे कृष्ण लेके चली गई मतलब we should not see anybody as an object for our sense gratification. So maybe Ajamil could have thought कि अरे माता जी का अवस्था कितना खराब है भगवान सद्बुद्धि दे और तुरंत निकल दो बाहर है ना
Yes.
Thank you Ravi, for बताओ
In the same way, the sun and the moon are eclipsed by a low planet. The Brahmana lost his good sense, taking advantage of this situation. He always thought of the prostitute, and within a short time, he took her as a servant in his house and abandoned all the regulative principles of the Brahmana.
मैंने किसी से कंसल्ट नहीं करा अपनी पत्नी भी निकाल दी गई
By speaking this verse, Sukadeva Goswami wants to impress upon the mind of the reader that Ajamil's exalted position as a Brahmana was vanquished by his association with the prostitute. So much so that he forgot all his Brahmanical activity. Nevertheless, at the end of his life, by chanting the 4 syllables of the name Narayana, he was saved from the gravest danger of falling down. स्वल्पमपि च धर्मस्य त्रायते महतो भयात्. Even a little devotional service can save one from the greatest danger. Devotional service, which begins with chanting of the holy name of the Lord, is so powerful that even if one falls down from the exalted position of a Brahmana through sexual indulgence, he can be saved from all calamities if somehow or the other he chants the holy name of the Lord. This is the extraordinary power of the Lord's holy name. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita, it is advised that one not forget the chanting of the holy names even for a moment. Satatam kirtayanto bhavat kirtantascha viradhata. Namastasya harmachamam bhaktya tushyantu charavanti cha. Namaskyantastamam bhaktya.
हमें इंडिया की आर्मी वाले ने पाकिस्तान वाली से मैरिज कर लिया तो गाली तो पड़ेगा ही तो पूछा कि मतलब तुम इंडिया तो उधर की से मैरिज कर रहे हो तो सिक्योरिटी बना रहेगा इसी तरह से हमारा है। हम माया के साथ जाके मिक्स कर रहे हैं और सोच रहे हैं हमारी भक्ति की सिक्योरिटी लाइफ में कुछ ब्रेक नहीं है।
There are so many dangers in the material world that one may fall down from an exalted position at any time. Yet, if one keeps himself always pure and steady by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, he will be safe without it. So one has to keep himself always pure.
Yeah, I want to say one should always remember the seventh offense. ये नहीं कि कुछ भी कर लेंगे और नाम ले लेंगे और वाइफ हो जाए। वो नाम केवल शब्द के जैसे बचे। You cannot chant pure name without associating with pure name.
See, it is not that the devotee does not see the attractiveness of the material world. The devotee understands that this attractiveness, what I am seeing in the material world, is transient. But it is a reflection of Krishna's attractiveness. It's actually coming from Krishna. But because it is being manifested on the material plane, it won't stay for long. If I want sustainable attraction, sustainable, then I need to go to Krishna. So that is why it is being explained that okay, if one continues chanting the holy names of the Lord, then one can keep oneself safe. But one should be always in that mode of chanting. So when one morning program is finished, one should look forward to the next morning. When one preaching lecture is finished, one should look forward to the next preaching opportunity. So that one is always, one should not think, oh, now my job is done. Now I can do anything in the world. No, what are we going to do? We are not attached to the holy name. We'll simply fall down, that's all. We'll simply embrace Maya, that's all.
Okay, again, it comes to fact that we cannot be attached to the holy name if we are not attached to the service, if we are not attached to the mission. माला तो नहीं मन नहीं करता। क्योंकि मैं पटना के लिए जाना है। वैसे तो कुत्ते के थोड़ा काम करें तो चल जाएगा। नहीं, नाम वही नहीं जब तक मिशन में प्रॉपर फाइट मिली।
Yes. Okay, let's read further then.
तो ये किसी ने सलाह नहीं दी पूरे प्रोसेस में। घर में अच्छी धर्म भी दी, माता पिता भी अच्छे थे। पत्नी लगते जा रहा था।
Tam toshayam asham pitrayena yavata gramayer manadhamay kamer praside yathata. Thus Ajamil began spending whatever money he had inherited from his father to satisfy the prostitute with various material presentations so that she would remain pleased with him. He gave up all his grammatical activities to satisfy the prostitute. But there are many instances throughout the world in which even a purified person being attracted by a prostitute spends all the money he has inherited. Prostitute hunting is so abominable that the desire for sex with a prostitute can ruin one's character, destroy one's exalted position, and plunder all one's money. Therefore, illicit sex is strictly prohibited. One should be satisfied with his married wife, for even a slight deviation will create havoc. A Krishna conscious Grihastha should always remember this. He should always be satisfied with one life and be peaceful simply by chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Otherwise, at any moment, he will fall down from his good position as exemplified in the case of Achamila.
I'm just thinking why Prabhupada wrote his married wife, because someone else married wife is not one. And like, like one more thing was coming, my mind is beating so fast for you. Like the problem in today's world is like for the girl or boy, they are not marrying genuine devotees. So girls are marrying a person who is like a prostitute, and boy is marrying a woman who is like a prostitute. So that's why everybody is trying to satisfy each other's lust and greed, and that cannot be satisfied. So in the name of marriage, they cannot marry anyone. गृहस्थ आश्रम is sacred. क्या किसके साथ दिन रात रहने का सोच रहे हैं? ये बहुत सोचने की बात है.
You see, the point is mutual agreement to satisfy each other's lusty, greedy propensities is not going to work out. Because one may always find a better offer in some time, and a better offer, and a better offer. Therefore, one has to give up this mentality altogether. That is the point.
I think that's why there is one more statement: sex life whether illicit or illicit, or not illicit.
Yes, proper speaks and second chance. 65.
क्योंकि पिछले श्लोक में जब वो बोल रहे इतना कुछ लाना पड़ रहा है फिर भी वो संतुष्ट नहीं हो रही. पहले जो पत्नी रहती थी वो तो संतुष्ट हो जाती थी. इसलिए श्री गुरु गोविंद स्वामी महाराज बोल रहे हैं कि स्त्री को संतुष्ट नहीं किया जाता. इसलिए भगवद गीता के फर्स्ट चैप्टर में स्त्री की सुरक्षा पे इतना बल दिया गया है कि स्त्री अगर धर्म के कार्य में नहीं लगी हुई तो हमको भी अधर्म में लगा देगी. लाइक द नॉन डिवोटी वाइफ. So, जो ये अंध महाराज की पत्नी मृत्यु है इसलिए उनका संतान महीना हो गया. फिर डिवोटी सोचता है कोई नहीं हमको भक्ति करने दे दिया. अरे दिन रात एक संगी संगी का संकार गड़बड़ जाएगा.
Yes. विप्रां स्वभार्यां अपरौषधां कुले महति अभ्युता विशासाचिरात् पापा स्वैरिण्या पंगा विधौधि because his intelligence was pierced by the lustful glance of the prostitute. The victimized Brahmana Ajamil engaged in sinful activities in her association. He even gave up the company of his very beautiful young wife, who came from a very respectable Brahmin family. Customarily, everyone is eligible to inherit his father's property. Ajamil also inherited the money of his father. But what did he do with the money? Instead of engaging the money in service to Krishna, he engaged it in the service of a prostitute. Therefore, he was condemned and was punishable by Yamaraj. How did this happen? He was victimized by the dangerous, lustful glance of a prostitute.
So, जो पत्नी धर्म पत्नी नहीं है वो आपका पतन करा देती है. क्योंकि जो आपको समय धन एनर्जी गुरु कृष्ण की सेवा में लगाना था वो अपनी सेवा में लगा देती है और वो फिर भी संतुष्ट नहीं होती. तो क्या इसीलिए तो सेंसेस आर बोल रहे थे क्या होता है सेंसेस आर मीनिंगफुल मार्केट क्या होता है. इस सेंसेस और सेंस ऑब्जेक्ट का मूर्ति की कभी संतुष्ट नहीं होगी.
Yes.
So don't be the slave of your own senses, then only you become slave of opposite gender. The problem is not the opposite gender, problem is your own self. Prostitute होता है कि उससे हाँ मेरे को हम लाए थे उसको. The choice change the course of one's life.
That is why it is recommended that as soon as one gets any material facilities and opulence, say money, anything,
आज की जनरेशन में
it is better to offer it to Krishna. Because otherwise it will be snatched by Maya. Better to offer it to Krishna.
और आज की जनरेशन में वैसे नहीं होता कि प्रोस्टिट्यूट के गंगा वंगा में दिखेंगे. आजकल तो सब शूद्र कौन है. तो एक्चुअली जो मैट्रिमोनियल प्रोफाइल में जो लोग आ रहे हो देख रहे हैं आप कितना मेंटेनेंस दे सकते हैं. तो वही देख रहे हैं. ठीक है क्योंकि वही देख रहे हैं मेरे पति कितना धर्म में लगा हुआ है. तो कौन पारसी में जैसे थोड़ी ना शिव जी को मैंने कर दिया. तुम्हारा वैल्यूएशन इससे लग रहा है कि तुम कितना बड़ा घर दे सकते हो, कितना गाड़ी दे सकते हो, कितनी ड्रेसेस दे सकते हो, कितनी जगह घुमा सकते हो. ऐसा तो ये तो वही होगा. प्रोस्टिट्यूट पहले आके नहीं करी बट इस बार प्रोस्टिट्यूट आके मैरी कर दी. ठीक है. यही है. इसलिए कलयुग में ये जो फैमिली लाइफ है ना आश्रम कहाँ हो गए कर रहे हैं. तभी तो प्रॉपर बोले थोड़ा सा वो सेक्स लाइफ में डिस्टर्बेंस हो जाए तो तलाक दे देते हैं. तो कृष्ण के लिए जुड़े तमाल शाम की सेवा में लगे हुए कुछ करनी नहीं है मुझे तमाल शाम लगे. हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी.
Yes. Okay, so let's wait for them.
मुझे लगा वही हम ये लाइफ में कोई नहीं कर पाते क्योंकि हमको लगता है हम कौन सा प्रोस्टिट्यूट के पास जा रहे हैं. जिससे मैरी कर रहे हैं उसकी डिजायर गुरु कृष्ण की सेवा की है या तुमसे अपनी सेवा कराने की है. Sorry, we should be careful. I will not marry a prostitute thinking. So pseudo devotee can be a male or female prostitute. Be very careful.
Yatastata Shopanidye
यतस्ततश्च पुरंजन पुरंजनी
Nyayato Nyayato Dhanam
न्यायतो धनम
Bhabhararasayaha Kutumbinya
वभारस्य कुटुम्बं
Kutumbam Mandadhirayam
कुटुम्बं मंद अभ्यास. इसके लिए भक्ति ठाकुर एक भजन बोल रहे हैं. शैशव यौवने जड़ सब किसका क्या था शैशव यौवने जड़ का संग किया जड़ इंद्रिय संग अभ्यास हुए बंधन. इतना ज्यादा सेंसेस को इधर उधर लगा के स्पिरिचुअल एक्सप्लोर.
Although born of a Brahmana family, this rascal, bereft of intelligence because of the prostitute's association, earned money somehow or the other, regardless of whether properly or improperly, and used it to maintain the prostitute's sons and daughters.
I just want to say कि इसमें तो prostitute हटा दो. मॉडर्न डे जो गर्ल्स आती है मैट्रिमोनी में वो भी तो यही करा रही है. उनके लिए कितना लाख कमाना पड़ता है. तो जो पहले जो धर्मपत्नी थी उसकी मेंटेनेंस चल रही थी, बच्चे भी सब बढ़िया चल रहा था. अब ये मेंटेनेंस ही नहीं हो रहा. तो जो हमारा अत्यधिक अर्थ का प्रयास है वो एक्चुअली एक काम्य पुरुष या काम्य स्त्री को संतुष्ट करने के लिए ही है. ठीक है. नहीं तो कम में बड़ी फैमिली में पहले गुजारा हो जाता था. पिछली लाइफ का बढ़िया चल रहा था. ये उन्हीं का खर्चा नहीं निकल रहा. कहानी ये कि इसको प्रोस्टिट्यूट की स्ट्रेस मत करो. आजकल के ऐसे ही मैसेज आते हैं. वो आपका पैकेज देखते हैं. आपको आप बोलो हम सेवा करेंगे तो बोलेंगे हम तुमको पहले नहीं करेंगे.
Yad asau shastram ullangya swailachari ati garhitaha avartata chiram kalam agayura sachir bala This Brahmana irresponsibly spent his long lifetime transgressing all the rules and regulations of the holy scriptures, living extravagantly, eating food prepared by a prostitute. Therefore, he was full of sins. He is unclean and addicted to forbidden activity.
अभी मुझे यही कहना है कि जो मॉडर्न ने मैरिड लाइफ की बात रखी उसमें वो आज की स्त्री को मेंटेन करने के लिए बहुत ज्यादा खर्चा करना पड़ता है बहुत अच्छा मैंने वहां पर बोले जैन स्पिरिचुअल को भागना साहिब को भाग कर पाए संतोष की वाला प्रॉपर तो बोले सिंपल लाइफ आई थिंकिंग जब तक लाइफ सिंपल नहीं रहेगी कृष्ण मंदिर स्वामी रखते हैं ज्यादा भगवान ने दिए तो ज्यादा सेवा करते आप क्या सर्वेंट ऑफ द सर्वेंट ऑफ द सर्वेंट और सिर्फ लिप्स से बोलने के लिए क्या
Food prepared by an unclean, sinful man or woman, especially a prostitute, is extremely infectious. The Jamil ate such food and therefore he was subjected to punish by Yamaraja. तथा एनं दंडपाने सकाशं कृतकल्पिषाम् वेशयामो कृतनिर्वेशा यत्र दण्डेन शुध्यति This man did not undergo atonement. Therefore, because of his sinful life, we must take him into the presence of Yamaraj for punishment. There, according to the extent of his sinful acts, he'll be punished and thus purified. So the Vishnudutas had forbidden the Yamadutas to take Ajaman to Yamaraj, and therefore the Yamadutas explained that taking such a man to Yamaraj was appropriate.
was taken to the Yamraj to purify.
Since Ajamil had not undergone for his sinful activities, he was to be taken to Yamaraj to be purified. When a man commits murder, he becomes sinful. Therefore, he also must be killed. Otherwise, after death, he must suffer many sinful reactions. Similarly, the punishment of Yamaraj is a process of purification. For the most abominable sinful persons, therefore the Yamaduta requested the Vishnuduta not to obstruct their taking Achamila to Yamaraj. Whether it's working on the purpose. On the sixth canto, first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The History of Life of Ajamila.
मुझे ये कह रहे हैं कि अजानक से क्योंकि भागवतम में तो भक्तों ने लीला के लिए उनको ये सब ऐसा करके बताना पड़ा तो हम अजानक के लाइफ से ये नहीं सोच सकते कि भाई अजानक को तो भगवान हम लोग संभाल लेंगे क्योंकि अजानक के पास अजानक स्टोरी नहीं थी हमने तो सुनी है ऑलरेडी हर्ड अजानक पास है उसके बाद भी हम जाके गड़बड़ करेंगे और सोचेंगे नाम तो बच जाएंगे क्योंकि नाम ने वाला पापा बच गई तब बाद लेक्चर में बताते हैं So this story should not be big and also get because we are already getting our more than a second chance. हम करके आ चुके हैं Hare Krishna Prabhu, anybody start the next one?
Yes. So we see that now, if you see a Brahmana doesn't need punishment. Because a Brahmana commits mistake, immediately realizes and rectifies. Like Parikshit Maharaj was not needing any punishment because he immediately committed a problem and he rectified. Therefore, when punishment actually came, he was a transcendental consciousness where to be done. So that is why Brahmana doesn't need to be punished because the Brahmana understands. Then there are people who commit
But a genuine Brahmana only will himself understand.
Yeah.
That was the person who is not understanding, even if the person is a Brahmana or a so-called initiated devotee, he is not a devotee.
See,
He is
this-
still a devotee. It is Guru का ध्यान ही नहीं आ रहा उसने क्या कर दिया.
The second level of devotee is one who sees, doesn't understand. But when he is told not to do it, he follows.
Yes.
Like, and when he is told how it is dangerous, he accepts. And then there is this category of the Shudras, even after seeing, after experiencing, they do not understand. So therefore, the first platform we hear from the spiritual master, we follow. The second platform of practice is that we do it, experience, and go through, see how it is very dangerous. And the third is not learning, even without any.
The third is,
Even after experience, the person doesn't learn.
like I've heard it like the category of disciples. One who
So there are a
understands.
lot of differentiation. These are three levels in which one can receive the instructions. So at what stages understanding can come? Understanding can come directly by hearing from a simple realized soul also. The Shastras are theological in emphasizing on this point, and one doesn't have to go through the experience of self gratification to understand that self gratification is futile.
भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे महावीर जगन्नाथ.
One doesn't have to go through that experience. One can simply hear, accept, and get done with it, or get rid with it for eternity. So this is the principle. So therefore, let's read further.
Yes, we have not seen. Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu,
Yes.
Prabhu, were these verses spoken
Yes.
by Yamdutas to Vishnudutas to justify the capturing?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes. So the next chapter we will see the Vishnudutta's reply to the Yamadutas. So the next chapter, chapter 2, we will start. Ajam will delivered by the Vishnudutas. We'll start with text 1. Shivadarayi Nirvacha Evam te Bhagavaddhuta Yamaduta Vikashitam Padharyatatan Rajan Pratyahornayapo Sukadev Goswami said, my dear king, the servants of Lord Vishnu are always very expert in logic and arguments. After hearing the statements of the Yamadutas, they replied as follows. Vishnuduta Uju Aho Kashnam Dhammadishan Adharma Svishate Shama Yatra Dandeshu Apapeshu Nando Yair Driyate Mritha The Vishnuduta said, alas, how painful it is that irreligion is being introduced into an assembly where religion should be maintained. Indeed, those in charge of maintaining religious principles are needlessly punishing.
Yes, probably.
Those in charge of maintaining the religious principles are needlessly punishing a sinless, unpunishable person. See, the Vishwadutas accused the Yamadutas of violating the religious principles, attempting to drag Ajamil to Yamaraj for punishment. Yamaraj is the officer appointed by the Supreme Personality of God to judge the religious and irreligious principles and to punish people who are irreligious. However, if completely sinless people are punished, the entire assembly of the Yamaraj is contaminated. This principle applies not only in the assembly of human life but throughout human society also. In human society, properly maintaining the religious principles is the duty of the king's court or the government. Unfortunately, in this age, Kali Yuga, the religious principles are tampered with. And the government cannot judge who is to be punished and who is not. It is said that in the Kali Yuga, if one cannot spend money in the court, one cannot get justice. Indeed, in courts of justice, it is often found that magistrates are bribed for favorable judgments. Sometimes, religious men who preach the Krishna consciousness movement for the benefit of the entire populace are arrested and harassed by the police and the courts. The Vishnudutas or Vaishnavas lamented for these very regrettable facts. Because of their spiritual compassion for all the fallen souls, the Vaishnavas go out to preach according to the standard method of the religious principles. But unfortunately, because of the influence of Kali Yuga, Vaishnavas who have dedicated their lives to preaching the glory of the Lord are sometimes harassed.
The extra
And punished
by courts or
by
false
courts on false charges of disturbing the peace. Okay, so let's stop here for today.
Because they are thinking we are disturbing peace, we are disturbing their sensitivity.
ग्रंथरा श्री स्वागतम की जय,
Yeah.
श्री प्रभुपाद की जय, हरि बोल।
ये नाम अजामिल का अर्थ क्या है?